Okay, we're going to do about 20 minutes or so on Simone de Beauvoir and Martin Luther King Jr. You can see each of these writers as reacting in some way to Immanuel Kant. Neither of them are interested in talking about the outcomes so much as they are the, uh, the reasons. They do attempt to synthesize a little bit of the reason into the outcome, or outcome into the reason, rather. So try to synthesize some of the outcome into the reason, but mostly it's all about reason. Uh, Now, Simone de Beauvoir is one of 8 or 10 really important existentialist writers. Existentialism is a doctrine that became very popular after World War One, and more popular still after World War Two. And what existentialism is about is the idea that we are before we are something. That is to say, existence precedes essence. Thus, we must make ourselves. We can make ourselves because existence precedes essence. There's not a thing dictating, some essential quality to ourself or some essential nature of the world that dictates we must be like this or like that. Instead, what we have is that we are and that we become whatever it is we become. What the existentialist calls for us to do is to pick a program that fits the world, a program that complements our abilities and our desires, and that we pursue that program, that we pursue it 100%. One of the famous examples of this idea of pursuing comes from de Beauvoir's colleague and sometime lover, Jean-Paul Sartre, who talks about the waiter. He says there's at least two kinds of waiters. There are waiters who are really doing this because they can't do anything else right now. They'd rather do something else, but they're waiting tables until they can get a job as an actor, or they're waiting tables until they can collect enough money to leave town. They're waiting tables because it's all they can find right now, and when something else comes up, they'll move along. On the other hand, there are waiters who have defined themselves as waiters, whose activities give themselves over just to waiting on tables. And these waiters are a different kind of waiter than those others. They are authentic waiters. The other waiters are not. The other waiters are inauthentic. The first group of waiters act in good faith. This is who they are, and they behave accordingly. Uh, Whereas the other waiters, the waiters act in bad faith, or as Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir both call it, mauvais foi, bad faith. Um, so what de Beauvoir suggests is that the kind of program that is most appropriate for us to pursue is one that is in accord, as I say, with one, embracing our freedom, that we don't run from our freedom. We are, as they say, doomed to freedom. We can't help but be free. Therefore, it is our choices that make us what we are. And so we must choose knowing that. We must choose embracing that. Anything else is mauvais foi, bad faith. Whenever we pursue freedom ourselves, we should pursue it in a way that does not ignore others. You see how much it sounds like Kant? You see, I'm the maker of my own rules, both subject and sovereign of the kingdom of ends. I have to treat you as though you are an end in yourself, so I can't just abuse you. But for the existentialists, this comes out of the realization that a person is free of anything restricting them. That there are cultural restrictions, but they can be set aside. There are physical restrictions. They can be overcome. I made a joke one time to a student. I said, if you really have free will, go home and grow 4 inches. Sartre would have said, well, I went home, I tried to grow 4 inches and I failed. Failure is a real thing in Sartre's world. To try is, though, the heart of freedom. To turn away from trying, to retreat from freedom, to say there's nothing that can be done, that's the evil, that's the wrong. And Beauvoir agrees with Sartre on this. She's putting forward this idea that for true moral good behavior, I must behave in a way where I embrace my freedom. I am aware of your freedom. I respect your freedom and you mine, if we're going to be moral. And the goal here is to promote freedom. So we do not want to embrace anything, any kind of behavior that impinges on someone else's freedom. So that's basically what the Beauvoir is up to. She's promoting freedom because we are free. We are condemned to be free. We cannot help but be free because existence precedes essence. So we are, and then we are something. And we can make ourselves the something we choose to be. In fact, we must do that. And as we do that, we do it in a way in which we embrace our freedom and remain respectful of the freedom of others. If we do so, we are moral. All right, now let's take a look at Dr. King. Dr. King is also making an appeal to dignity. What concerns him with the behaviors that he's facing outside Birmingham jail is that people are not embracing what he sees as central to the mission of all good moral people, particularly good Christian moral people, that we act in such a way that we respect the dignity of others. We cannot get away with treating people as things. We must treat them as people. They are not means, they are ends. They are themselves worthy of respect just by being people, just by being alive. And so when when people make criticisms or make remarks like, well, at least the police are trying to keep law and order. No, law and order is not good in and of itself. Law and order is good only insofar as it exists to protect the dignity of all people. Remember again for Kant, everything is universalizable. Everything goes in all directions. I mean, we see much the same thing, of course, in Mo-tzu and the call for universal love. This idea that we should all care about each other. We should all look to promote each other's well-being. The only difference really being is what's perceived as what's being promoted. For Kant, all we're really promoting is reason, rationality. Mo-tzu sees it as a way of pursuing the Confucian pattern of a person who is pursuing filial duty and cultural submission. So that we're behaving in a way that promotes the culture. Dr. King, I think, is looking for somewhere sort of between those two positions. He is, I think, looking for something far more religious in orientation. He is, after all, a minister. He's trying to promote this idea that when we say love your neighbor, that we mean obviously something beyond merely that doctrine of we love each other through God, but rather that we love each other as human beings, that we have respect for each other, that we share each other's dignity, we watch out for each other. The kind of thing we saw in Mo-tzu particularly, the kind of thing that, what was his name? Maudib, I think that was it. The Muslim writer said it should be between all Muslims and even between all people. Remember that for him, it's not so much that other people shouldn't be respected, it's that they're not free to be part of the governing. a little distracted by the light over here on my right. Uh, yeah, so we have to consider that this love is the kind of thing that all people should share amongst themselves. Everybody should look out for each other. It is evidenced through respecting the dignity of others, respecting the humanity of others. And you don't see a whole lot of difference in the way people behave if they're being a Kantian or they're being a Confucian or they're being a follower of Dr. King or even if they're being an existentialist. They all seem to pursue the same ideas of universal respect, a universal mutual appreciation. Um, what's going to be the difference here is the program through which we can pursue these things. Dr. King, as a follower both of Jesus and of Kant, is going to want to follow a peaceful means to this path. Simone de Beauvoir was part of the French underground. She fought the Nazis. She saw these people as people trying to oppress freedom, and therefore, you are whatever you have to do to promote freedom, you do it, and thus violence was perfectly okay. A lot of the existentialists were involved in revolution in one way or another, either in the underground during World War II, promoting Algerian freedom after the war. The idea here is that uh, not that we're constructing a universal law that everybody has to follow. In fact, existentialist ethics is a very individualistic ethics, unlike Dr. King's, whose ethics is communitarian. Everybody in the community. The idea is to form a better community, and in fact, form a world community where we all love each other the same way. Whereas, so for de Beauvoir and the existentialists, each person has to find his or her own way as best suits their talents and abilities and situation in time and situation in place, that you have to judge everything and act accordingly. So I think that gives you an idea of how de Beauvoir and King fit in relationship to Kant and Motsu.